Hi, I'm Eliyahu Berkowitz. I'm a feature articles writer for Breaking Israel News. And for the last 4 years, I have had an amazing time writing about the re-emergence of the biblically mandated Sanhedrin of elders, which is the only way that the Bible really permits Israel to have a court system. And they've really been doing amazing things. Just to give you an idea, 4 years ago, I became familiar with them. They were putting the Pope and Obama on trial for going against the Bible by not recognizing that the land of Israel belongs to the Jews, that as it's written quite explicitly in the Torah. When other people were beating around the bush, the Sanhedrin, through the wisdom and the strength of the Torah, came out against these people. And now, as this beautiful insignia tells us, the Sanhedrin is working hard to establish an organization of 70 nations. And I think you'd be surprised to find out what it's going to do, and even more surprised about what it's already done. And sitting with me is Rabbi Professor Hillel Weiss, who has, over the course of time, become not only an amazing source of stories, but a very dear friend. I brought him in so he could answer a few questions about this organization of the 70 nations, which I've been writing about, as you can see here. They've been working very hard towards it. They've invited Nikki Haley to be the honorary president. So I'd like to ask Rabbi Weiss a few questions. First of all, thank you so much for coming in, Rabbi Weiss. It's always a personal pleasure for me to meet with you. So tell me, the 70 nations, the organization of the 70 nations, where's this written in the Bible? How do we know about it?
Oh, it's written very precisely. There is a verse, God put the borders of nations according the number of Israel. Hashem יצב גבולות עמים למספר בני ישראל. פרשת האזינו, ספר דברים.
Rabbis pointing out that according to the Torah, God sets the borders. So this is not just an Israel issue. Right now, one of the most burning issues in the United States, one of the dividing issues between the left wing and the right wing.
It started on Turkey, on Ararat mountains.
Exactly. When Noah landed in the ark.
And then Migdal Bavel, which is very important. All the nations, all the descendants, it comes from the sons of Noah, they wanted to establish a huge building, a symbol, that is against God. They say from time to time there is a catastrophe, we should stop the Nibiru, we should stop the tsunami by holding the sky. And then God himself went down to see what those human beings do. And he decided to scatter all of them all over the world. And all the descendants of Bnei Noach, the sons of Noach, there are 70. There are all the people in the world, and also Israel. They are sons of Shem, Ham, Veyefet. Shem was scattered, Ham was scattered, and Japheth was scattered. Now the temple is a repentance, is a way back of all the nations to a building that is used for the work of Hashem, for the work, not a rebellion, but the opposite. The same as Israel was exiled and the temple was destructed, Hashem destructed the Babylon Tower, and now in the prophecies, after the Gog and Magog or Armageddon or whatever, we are praying against, and I will explain it
Okay.
afterwards.
But what you're saying is that in essence, there is a movement in the world right now to no more borders, we're all the same. The European Union was a move towards that.
It cannot be. It take out all the holiness, all the deviations, all the languages, all the cultures, all the religions, to uproot them and to make a total globalization.
Or a new world order.
Yes. It must be both. It must be the separation, the deviation, the languages, the cultures, and it must be the responsibility to keep the globe properly and not to destroy it.
I think it's funny, you're making a very strong point, that it's interesting to note that just at the time we seem to have all come together and become one, then we get these global threats. which and you have refugees that are destroying cultures. You have I don't know, they call it global warming, and this is something that we should all come together on, and we can't, even though we're all one, and that's.
We can do a lot. We can do a lot, as much that we can, because we are not, for sure, we have not pretensions that we really can, but we have responsibility. If there is a hole in the ship, all the people that are on the ship must do everything to stop the ship from sinking down to the bottom.
But isn't this something that the United Nations is already doing?
They are doing a lot. They are doing a lot, but mostly they are doing it against the Jews. If the Jews or the Bible put the finger on the selections of Israel, they must destroy it. You have to think why most of the resolutions of the and most of the energy are against Israel and the Jews. Why it is so anti-Semitic? Why the Jews are so disturbing the United Nations? And if you think that the idea of human rights was written by a Jew, his name was René Cassin, an Algerian Jew, that he wrote this scroll, this treaty of human rights. And what did the United Nations do? He took Iran, took Syria, took Zaire to be in the assembly of the human rights. Why? To destroy the ideas of the Bible.
Oh, I want to, if I can enter here just 1 minute. There was an article I wrote in which Rabbi Weiss totally shocked me. He pointed out something that I was not aware of. When you talk about things like abortion or physician-assisted death, euthanasia, in a democratic nation, in America, we're used to seeing these things as a political agenda, when in reality, these things go much, much deeper. Rabbi Hillel pointed out to me the United Nations Human Rights Council passed resolutions, or I'm not so sure they passed them, but they keep bringing up resolutions to make abortion and euthanasia a human right. And Rabbi Weiss pointed out to me, well...
And all the family destructions.
And exactly. The family issues, they are anti-family. And these are all things that are written in the Noahide laws. So in essence, the United Nations is anti-Noahide.
Exactly.
And that's universal. That should be universal. Something that goes throughout. So in that essence, also in that respect, the United Nations has also failed in its mission.
Of course. because it's modern, it's postmodern, it's overpacked with ideas of artificial freedom of human beings. Human beings cannot rebel against the treaty of Noach and his son. This is the basic law. This is the deep law. And when the humanity are working against, they are going back to the Tower of Babylon, they will be destroyed. You can see that in Europe, the birth giving is minus. In Japan too. In United States less. But also it's modern, lot of homosexuals with program, a political homosexuality. All the parades are political. They are not defending the people that are in this situation. They are recruiting them, all of them, to destroy the world.
So hopefully an organization of 70 nations will bring together all nations on some basis, it is a biblical basis.
Hopefully.
So what would you call this religious?
Of course.
Religious Jewish or religious?
No, there is sub-Jewish. Noach was not a Jew. His sons were not Jews. We are not going to found a new religion. But we are applying to all the nations, to all the human beings, this responsibility with modesty. We are not speaking exactly like Jews. We are not the protocol of Zion. We don't want to rule the world. We want to understand with all the human beings what does it mean to be a man, a family, a tribe, a nation, peoplehood, and so on. And when we will understand it deeply, there will be much more love and responsibility between all the people.
You describe it very nicely. How can you not want something like that? But this won't be an organization of rabbis running the world.
No, chas v'sholem.
That means God forbid. Okay.
God forbid. Look, the rabbis that I'm speaking with them, let's speak about the chairman, Yoel Schwartz, or Shea Hollander, which is the foreign minister of the Sanhedrin.
Mm-hmm.
They are speaking very modestly and without any twist or manipulation to all the people in their eyes with equality. And when we are speaking on a court in Jerusalem, all the 70 nations, all the colors will be equal to each other, and also the Jews, because it will be a debate or a discussion, and people say what they really think, and they will vote, and then it will be the resolution.
Yeah, one thing that really shocked me was last year there was a Creation of the World concert. It was a concert held on the day that, according to Jewish tradition, the entire world was created, which is something that every person in the world should give thanks for. And the Sanhedrin found one particular emissary to transfer to the Arab world and to Iran that they should take part in this organization of 70 nations. This actually, in certain ways, transcends boundaries. It's reinforcing individual cultures, individual language, and borders, but at the same time, it's not based on political interests. It's based on spiritual, divine interests that we all share. Actually, there's no reason why Iran couldn't say, "Okay, we've got this problem. We're not going to come. We're not going to show up to the Tigris."
They are invited.
They
to
are
this-
entirely invited. The
Like
Sanhedrin
any
invited.
nation.
I actually don't have it here. They issued a coin and wrote in Persian on the coin, specifically to invite the Iranians. Not only could this be a forum to help the world return to its spiritual roots, something that we all share actually, but it could help with some very real issues we're coping with today. If we could sit down with Iran, then maybe we'd avoid some of the problems.
It's more the Persians, Iran.
The Persians, yes.
But it
Yes.
can be also Iran.
Yes.
We are not confiscated, not Erdogan, not Turkey, not Syria, not the enemies. Like in Athens, when there was the Olympics time, there was no wars. We are inviting, not we, the Bible invites all the nations to Jerusalem. Not for fight, not for Armageddon, not for Gog and Magog, for peace.
For peace. Because out of Zion will go teaching. And to this end, as I said last year, there was a World Creation Concert, which was a really spectacular concert. Let's see if I can. This is the Sanhedrin invited.
Exercises.
They had an actual altar that we've prepared for the third temple, and they invited the 70 nations there. The ambassador of Guatemala spoke. They've invited Nikki Haley to be the honorary president because she is a woman who actually tried to fix the United Nations.
We made a coin for her.
They made a coin for her, and something that I thought was really very sweet that Rabbi Hillel said to me. Rabbi Hillel is a real speaker of truth. He's never pulled any punches with me. And yet he said, you know, it would be nice if the UN did tshuva, if they repented, because they have done things wrong, and the worst thing you can do is just keep going straight in your mistake. But they have such an important function that if they do not do repentance, if they do not fix their ways, the world still does need that. Here it is. So this was a concert, if you can see, this was at the south wall of the Temple Mount.
There is the YouTube some pieces of the concert.
There's a YouTube video. If you look for World Creation Concert, you can see a lot of the stuff that was done there. But the main point was in the intermission, they invited up the ambassador of Honduras, the ambassador of Guatemala, and a delegation from Mexico, and they signed on to a charter for the Organization of the 70 Nations, in which they expressed intent to take part in it, that they would accompany Israel on our.
According to the prophecies, they will follow the people of Israel to the temple each year. Let's say at the tabernacle, but anytime, like in the prayer of Solomon's, the king, that built the first temple, there is a prayer for the alien, for the non-Jews, when they are coming to the temple to pray for Hashem.
Yeah, that's a very important point. Implicit in this is a return to Zion, a return to the third temple. There's a lot of disputes between religions about what exactly that means. And there's a lot of misunderstanding. It should be emphasized, and in a very simple way, that first of all, the first temple, when it was dedicated, the prayers of the non-Jews were one of the first things that Solomon said. The temple is not a Jewish synagogue. It's for the entire world. And in the same way, this organization is for the entire world. So, and the third temple will also require the entire world to be part of it. I think, to be honest, I think that's one of the most horrible things about the situation on the Temple Mount today. It's not okay. It's the worst part about it is that it's only Muslim.
Look, the state of
Only
Israel,
Muslim.
The state of Israel are very afraid for the roots of religion in Judaism. The Zionism mostly says we want to be like all the nations, like with the jurisprudence or laws like the United Nations. Let's say we don't want to be any more Jews.
Mm.
This is the message. And therefore, the state are persecuting the Jews that are on the Temple Mount.
And I think the worst part about that, the worst part about that is not so much what the Jews are missing out because of that and what Israel's missing out. The worst part about it is the world really needs us to take our place as what God wanted us to be, as a light unto the nations. Without the Jews, there's no temple, house of prayer for all nations.
You know, it's written in the Midrash, let's say in the Talmud, that if the non-Jews would know what is the meaning of the temple, they would run to do it.
Yes, yes. And you can put it the other way as well, that if this seems like an idea that you don't like, perhaps you don't understand it properly, or perhaps it's not coming out the way it should. But the temple should be something that's appealing to everyone. And this League of 70 Nations, the Organization of 70 Nations, is also very much something that should appeal to the entire world. So tell me, Rabbi.
I want to show you that tomorrow there will be an exhibition about the future Jerusalem. And there is the building of the 70 nations. Also, there is a place for it. In the ancient Ba'ir Atika.
In the old city.
In the old city. And all the borders of Jerusalem and the temple.
So there are plans to make this, it's not just a nice idea or a club. And it's moving forward very quickly. As I said, the beginnings were last year at the concert. There's a conference coming up. When exactly is the concert? Is the conference?
It's always on the 25th of Elul now. The Jewish calendar and the non-Jewish calendar is all the same on this month, 25th of September. And the 26th of September will be the conference for establishing the new organization, the 70 Nations, and there will be also the concert on this very night.
Okay, so I have to tell you, I've been covering this, and I know that Rabbi Hillel is capable of earth-shaking things, and he's impressed me time after time, but this time he shocked me. A partial list of the countries that have agreed to take part in this organization of 70 nations. If you want to call it a crazy pipe dream, an extremist weird thing, fine. However, there are countries taking it very seriously. We had last year Guatemala and Honduras are very committed to it. Mexico is very committed to it. What other countries do we have committed to?
There are all more than, let's say, states from Central America and South America, but also one official guy from Afghanistan.
Really?
Yes, that is from the Pashtuns. They are from the 10 tribes at least. And now we just begin this process. We hope.
For those people who don't know, the Pashtun is the largest ethnic group in Pakistan. So to bring someone who could connect the Western world to Pakistan could be a huge step towards peace, a huge step towards fixing the world. I wrote El Salvador, Mexico, Honduras, Bolivia, Trinidad, Tobago, Costa Rica. These are nations that have already expressed their intent to come. The Vice President of the Republic of Guatemala is going to be there. And this is just the second year. I think the United Nations didn't start off this well.
No, we're inviting all the nations and the United Nations too. We hope that they will send at least one mashkif, one that will
observers.
And observers.
I think And it's amazing. I don't think any other news service is writing about this, which I can't understand. And no countries are really taking it seriously. But if you get this many countries who can agree on one thing that's just in its starting stages, I think there's huge potential here to bring the world together and fix it.
I want to tell you something that you already published. It's look total crazy, but it is not. When there was the Bahrain conference, the Sanhedrin suggested, according to real programs, to establish routes of electromagnetic trains. First of all, through the crack of Syrian African, according Israel, that combines 3 continents. And there are some systems in the world of the electromagnetic trains in Japan, the Shinkansen, the Shangri-La, and also the TGV and so on. Now the economic interest of all the countries and nations is that all those routes will be in one system all over the globe. Now, all the modern facilities to send oil, a letter from door to door, with all the ways, with all the facilities, the world is changing. It's like to put in the world a river of life. Like from Eden, there was one river that was separated to 4. And this is the peace. The main interest of the nations to make a Suez Canal, but 10,000 more and better than the Suez Canal. This is the interest of each country and state in the world.
What Rabbi Weiss is saying is hugely powerful. We're seeing now the Strait of Hormuz is hugely important because transportation is hugely important, and the United Nations has never dealt with this. When the British got the mandate in Palestine, they built a railroad right through Israel because Israel is a land bridge. It's a very important land
bridge.
bridge.
The United Nations had an idea to make a line through Gibraltar. They didn't did it. But it's very important.
It is important, and it's a no-brainer.
And the line from Magellan to Alaska, so the Bering back to Russia, and so on, is the most important.
Yeah, and these are not crazy. We definitely have the technology to do these things. It's just a matter of cooperation, sitting at a table together. If Israel was connected to Egypt, if Israel was the connection of Egypt and all of Africa.
It's Ukraine to Chad. It means it's China to Gabon.
The Ukraine used to be the breadbasket of Europe, but because of small things like this and them not getting along with their neighbors and problems with Russia, the world can't produce enough food for their own people. These are all basic issues that I think are being caused by people, not by nations, trying to create a world order but not being able to sit down at a table together. And if we have a house of prayer for all nations, well, after you finish praying, we can sit down and talk business. So
the business are also holy. I want to speak something about it.
Amen.
One of the Noahide laws, because of the flood, is not to steal, not to theft. And if you theft even one coin, you are a criminal. Now the problems of the currencies and the world and the competition of currencies, sometimes it's advancing some economy, but mostly there are coming demons like the cryptologic bitcoins that destroy the world. So all the banks have an overbank. They have one coin that have a covering in goods, in gold, like in the old times. A coin is not just to print papers. Someone has to be responsibility what is behind.
It's the rabbi explained to me that the Sanhedrin has been issuing coins I
want to show on this map the artist that did the map with a budget from Jerusalem municipality. She put by her own initiative the David coins that were made lastly as the only coin in Jerusalem. Here is on the map.
Yeah, the King David coin, which you can see here, is to usher in a Davidic dynasty. These are all the things that we were talking about, that Israel has to take its actual place in the world, and not as not as the leader or the strongest country.
Not only as a state. Israel is mostly non-religious state, with some motives of religion. And it must be much more spiritual than it is today. And to apply to the world with a good heart, which is Jesus with good heart. In any catastrophe in the world, Israel, the state, is the first one to put help all over the world.
As the last word, Rav Hillel wants to extend an invitation to all countries to come. Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar are coming to Israel. Their trip is being led by a group called Mifta, which is run by a horribly anti-Israel woman named Hanana Shrawi. And they're bringing congressmen to Israel, and in the past, the congressmen who attended these junkets ended up being horribly anti-Israel and anti-Semitic. One, Hank Johnson, came on a similar trip in 2015, and he went back and referred to Jews as termites. So I'd like to invite all the people to contact their politicians, their senators, their congressmen, and say, hey, there's an organization of 70 nations. So much of South America is part of it. Why isn't America in this? Why isn't the U.S. connecting to the organization of 70 nations? Congressmen, senators, they come to Israel. It's time that they saw the good side of Israel, the constructive way in which Israel can bring the world together, rather than the destructive way that people are trying to turn Israel into a center of conflict, rather than the center of peace. Yerushalayim, the complete Jerusalem being the city of peace, as its name implies. And I'd like to thank Rav Hillel, and I'd like to thank everyone for watching. This is a lot of information. This is earth-shaking stuff. The world is changing. Be blessed and have a wonderful day.